This is the AlwaysMoto podcast. I'm your host, David Hogan. This is a very special podcast for us here on the AlwaysMoto network. We have been asked, and it's been privileged to be asked actually, but we've been asked by the Motorcycling New South Wales office to conduct some interviews as part of the Motorcycling New South Wales Presentation Awards for 2025. Some of those are including for the Hall of Fame inductees for this year's intake. We've had a couple of these go off now, but this one in particular was really important for me. Very privileged to be able to do it. This one is with recent inductee into the AMA Hall of Fame, but he's also in the Motorsport Hall of Fame for Australia. He's now in the Motorcycling New South Wales Hall of Fame as per the other evening for this presentation night, and it's Chad Reed. Now, many of you will know Chad Reed for lots of his different accomplishments over the years. He is a 4-time Australian Supercross champion, a 2-time AMA Supercross champion. He's won the AMA Motocross Championship once. He's a 2-time World Supercross champion. He's a member of the Order of Australia. And like I said, he's in 3 different Hall of Fames now. And there's potential for him to be in a couple more yet. We'll see how that all works out. But for me as a kid, I'm a couple of years younger than Chad. So for me, when I started going to these races in New South Wales, which is Australia for any of our international listeners, a state of in Australia on the East Coast, I was at that point where I was very impressionable, and who was going to be winning the races was someone I would probably look up to. And I remember going to Parramatta City Raceway. It's a speedway venue, generally speaking, that we would repurpose for some different races at times. And one such thing that they held there was the Australian Supercross Championship. Now, I used to go there pretty regularly with my family. And at this time of my life, I would have been 11 or 12 or something around there. Actually, maybe 13. But yeah, somewhere in that range. And I saw a man on a RM Suzuki, which of course I was on a RM80 at the time, Suzuki. So I was looking for those people on that same sort of bike. And this man was rocking the number 11, and he was super fast. And he won the race that night, and that man was Chad Reed. And I still remember that he, interestingly, because he's known for doing big rhythms and stuff and being super fast in the whoops later in his career, but this particular night, there was a massive triple on this Supercross track, and he was not one that was jumping it. The man in second place, Michael Byrne, jumped it every lap of the main event, and Chad did it once, I think, and that was enough for him to say, no, I'm not doing that one again. This jump was insane, people. Like, we're talking back in the days of RM 250s, or 252 strokes, I should say, and it was not a spec track, let's say, like you would get in the AMA these days, where a triple is, 65, 70 foot max sort of thing. This thing was enormous. And for Michael Byrne to jump this every lap was insane. But Chad didn't do it, but he had this rhythm through it that he would double it and then jump out of it and basically land at the base of this next section and then just launch into the next rhythm section. And it was really impressive that, Burner didn't catch him doing this big jump because he was clearly losing time, but he was so much faster on the rest of the track. And yeah, he just left an impression on me that night. And I've since followed that career, obviously him moving to Europe. I was very invested. I used to get the Cycle Talk magazines that we'd have in our shops that were just like a newspaper in our motorcycle shops, not in any of the news agencies or anything. You'd have to go into a motorcycle dealership and they'd have them there. They were free. You could pick them up. And I used to grab 2 or 3 of them because I would cut the pictures out of them, and I'd stick some of those pictures of Reedy and some of the other Aussie guys around the world on covers of books for my school books and stuff like that. So I'd follow it through Europe when he was on Jan de Groot's Kawasaki, and then I was super impressed with that season that he did in his first season with Yamaha of Troy in the States, in the East Coast, getting the championship and racing James Stewart, and obviously I knew who James Stewart was by that point. And then just to keep watching him and to continue to watch him throughout his career, his very long career. He's got the most AMA Supercross starts of anyone. It's impressive. And like, I've got photos with him at different times. I got to interview him at Marvel at Melbourne last year when his son Tate was racing the 85cc race. I got to do an interview with him after that, just in the pits, only for a few minutes, but I told him that bit about the Parramatta Supercross, and you could see it sparked a memory, and I hope he thought it was cool. And then I got asked to do this interview, and one, I was nervous because it's Chad Reed, childhood hero sort of situation. But I sent him a couple of photos via text message. One, it was cool to say that, I've got Chad Reed's number in my phone, right? But before the interview started, I went through my little collection of old ADB magazines and some mini rider magazines and some other bits and pieces that I got in a drawer here. And I found some photos of Chad from his RM125 days as a junior, and then, an ad with him and Denny Ham and Jay Foreman on the Silkaleen Suzuki photo days. And then there was another one of his articles. It was called Read Between the Lines that he used to do. Obviously spelled R-E-E-D, not R-E-A-D, like you would read a book. But it was from when he just got over to the CDR Yamaha team in 2000. So I sent him those photos, and I'm like, look, this is impressive. These are old things. Hopefully it sparks some memories. We want to talk about this in this interview a little bit, not much, but just a little bit. But also that I'm a massive fan, right? And I say this in a second here when the interview starts, that it's a privilege for me to do it. And it was, and I still feel a little bit choked up by the fact that I got to do it, which is really cool. But I said to him at the end, I said, Chad, look, obviously this interview is for Motorcycle New South Wales award night, but I would love to put this out in a podcast, in an audio only format, just so that more people can hear this backstory, because there's obviously more to it. Lots of people know his AMA side of things and coming from Europe to there, but to hear him talk about those tracks, the early days of Cessnock and Lakes, and even I didn't realize that he started out on flat track. That was cool. So more people need to hear more about what Chad has done, because he's done more than you know. So Chad gave me his blessing to put this out. I'm not putting this out until after the presentation night. So if you're listening to this now, obviously the presentation night will have happened already. But this is the interview that I got to do with Chad Reed. Bit of a highlight for myself. Pretty cool that Chad Reed is now in multiple Hall of Fames, but he's in our Motorcycling New South Wales Hall of Fame as well. Congratulations on the inductee, Chad. Hopefully there is more to your motorcycling career yet ahead, whether that's with the coaching and stuff that you're starting to see him doing more and more with Club MX, or with his son or his daughter or his other son, and potentially in terms of the family still being in the sport. So I feel there's a lot more yet that we'll see of Chad Reed and the Reeds. It's not the story isn't ended just yet, but this is the part that he's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So without further ado, here is the interview that I conducted, David Hogan, the AlwaysMoto podcast, that I got to conduct with Chad Reed for his induction into the Motorcycle New South Wales Hall of Fame. All right, it's the Motorcycle New South Wales 2025 awards. This is one of our Hall of Fame inductees for 2025. He's unfortunately unable to be with us in person, but we've got him on the line. Chad Reed, welcome to the Hall of Fame for Motorcycling New South Wales.
What's up, man? How are things? Doing good?
Doing very well. Very privileged to have you on the line. Myself, David Hogan, as a fan and being a couple of years younger than you, for me to be doing this interview with yourself, to say that you're coming into a Hall of Fame, I feel quite privileged, a little bit nervous to be honest, but it's an exciting thing for me to be able to be having this conversation with you. But obviously, let's focus on yourself. You've had quite the week. This is the second Hall of Fame in a week, basically, for you that you've been inducted into. That's got to be a nice recognition of the efforts and achievements that you've had in the sport.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really cool, and it's really quite an honor. This will be the third one this year. So
third one.
Each one, the third one I did. I got to do the Motorsport Hall of Fame at F1 this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that one either. But I think what you reflect most about each one, or different versions of it, and I think it's such an honor to be inducted one time, let alone three different kinds of ones. And so for me, it's a true honor to, shine light on just a massive passion that I had. And, as a child, racing dirt bikes and motorbikes, and, traveling all over the country, to traveling all over the world, to living all over the world. And now obviously, based in America, it's put in a way super special. Cycling Australia one is cool. As a child, New South Wales was my home. It was where I spent my weekends racing all over, from lakes to Cessnock to anywhere down in the Sydney area, chasing state championships and all those kinds of things. So that's really a full circle moment for me. It's really special. And so, yeah, really, it's quite an honor, to be honest.
Do you remember, obviously everyone knows you as the Curry kid, right? Like, it's always the thing that they said on the AMA Supercross as to where you're from. I think they sort of thought it was funny the way it was said or whatever, and the double wording. But do you remember that first race for you? Where was it? What was it like? And was there something about it that kept spurring you, that pushed you to go to the next one as such?
I don't necessarily remember my first race per se, but I remember many first, like my introduction into motocross and motorcycles. I think a lot of people kind of know, let's say, the glory days, but no one knows, early on, Dad had a horse for me and I got to ride horses, and kind of one thing led to another. My cousin Craig Anderson had a motorcycle. And then, here I am all these years later, and, it started out by selling the horse, getting a P-dub. Some of the earliest memories that I have and the earliest pictures that align with the memories, which is funny, it was a lot of flat track. I got to do, I remember Maitland flat track, Curry flat track, even Lake Macquarie motocross track, Lakes had a flat track back in the day. So I don't know if that was like, whether I just started there and that was the easy part of it, or if flat track they took more pictures. I don't remember. But I remember a lot of just all my P-dub pictures or a lot of them are kind of at flat track events. So I assume that I did a lot of flat track early on. I remember. Not so much on 50s, but more like 50, under the 60 and the 80 and stuff like that, doing flat track races. But yeah, no, it's what I probably enjoy most about these kinds of reflections, I guess, is just how cool and the opportunities that I had, and getting to do that as a family. I mean, as a dad now, it's kind of nice when you get inducted into these. I'm 43. With 3 children of my own, perspective is really high. I'm really appreciative of the childhood I got to live. My mom, provided a huge and an amazing platform for me to, race bikes around this, the local area, into the state, and then into the, nationally. I think that the one thing that people don't tell you about is it's, yes, the athlete, the rider chases the dream, but for me, it was that we got to dream, chase the dream as a family. I think that equally, my parents and our family, especially in the early days, really enjoyed and loved going motorbike racing all over the country. So those are the memories I have, like traveling with my cousin, and close friends and all those things. That really was a big family, kind of feeling.
Yeah, obviously all that is what the motorcycling community sort of brings to it, and that motorcycling New South Wales side of things tries to have those clubs that do that sort of thing, and you've just beautifully explained what it was for you, and it was a family thing to begin with, and obviously it turned into much more than that for you. But now as a dad, you mentioned it there about like you having 3 kids and stuff. This is a little bit silly, but does the inductions into these Hall of Fames give you any street cred with your kids, or do they still look at you as just dad at this point? Do they realize what dad has done?
I'm lucky. I mean, I would say the most common thing I get asked, is, do my kids listen to me? And it's kind of a little bit sad because everyone seems to to come out, but my answer should be, I don't care who I am. But like, I'm so thankful that my kids really listen, almost to a fault, like where they rely so heavily on me. I'm your typical, like, I love to watch them ride and everything, but I have an expectation that it needs to be done correctly and right and in the safest of manners possible. It is a dangerous sport, but it can be very rewarding, as you can see, with my career. And 43, I'm still here to do it. I still love throwing a leg over a bike and going and do it. And that's the biggest thing for me, is I've never lost that passion to ride a motorbike. I still always love to throw a leg over a bike, and I'm still the fastest reed in the house. So that helps. That helps. That's good. That's good street cred. And so when Dad can do it, and when Dad can not only, preach and try to lead them and talk to them and tell them all the ways to do it, but I can also kind of walk the walk, I guess. So that helps me, especially with Tate. I mean, Tate's 15 and he's starting to, cross over into big bikes on Supercross. We've done the last couple of years in Australia doing the 85 Cup, but now it's getting real. He's on the big bike, and Dad's, I don't know how Dad feels about it. I'm super excited, but then I'm also, like you kind of want to have him on a leash and do it. And so I try to ride with him a lot, and I try to have him, learn all the correct things that I would like him to learn, so that when he chases the dream like he says he's going to, he can be good at it.
Yeah, nice. Well, look, I sent you a couple of photos before this interview as well, because I went digging through some of the history draws that I've got here of old magazines and stuff, just to try and show you some of the things that you might have forgotten about. But I just remember you back in those early days of very early days of your career, being, a Suzuki rider and chasing those Australian Supercross championships and Australian Motocross championships and thumping nats and doing things on DRZs and stuff. Like, does that seem like a lifetime ago? But that all forms where you ended up in terms of your skill and your talent by riding these different things all over the country. And then obviously you've done Indonesia and New Zealand and all sorts of other places too. But just talk about that part and how it impacted the career and how we end up getting to a Hall of Fame induction.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, everything you just said, I mean, it's like, for me as a kid, I remember I never had any desire or aspirations to do anything other than be a world champion of some kind on a motorcycle. There was a period where I was challenged and thinking that, riding motocross and supercross really wasn't going to happen. America really didn't care about Australians. You kind of had to have a French passport to be, talked about or wanted. And there really wasn't a whole lot of Aussies that were going and, bashing the door down in the way that the French did it. So for a short period, I thought maybe my chances of becoming a world champion on two wheels was maybe going road racing. My mom quickly shut that down. It's funny, they always thought it was dangerous, and here we are with motocross.
Yeah, explain that one. Yeah,
it's kind of a hard one to explain, which is kind of funny. I think my mom's there tonight, so maybe we can get clearer information out of her. But I'm really thankful that I continue to do the motocross thing. I mean, I think just to talk about the small things you did, I mean, even thumping ats, even at that point, I don't know that we all thought that we'd be racing four strokes only one day. And so I think that I was exposed to at a very 16, 17 years old, just piles of crap four-stroke back then. And I think of, where life ended up and how sophisticated and nice and just, how the evolution of the motorcycle today, it just paved the way. I mean, I feel like even going back further than that, as my years is on 80s and, into the junior 125s. I mean, I think I just got to live such a great era. Once upon a time, and I miss this part because, we were juniors and we got to go and race all over the country as juniors. But when you turn 16, you're a senior, and you went professional. You didn't do this fake stuff that I see in America, and now Australia's following along. And I'm sure there's high up people there in the room tonight, and I really don't agree with anyone over 16 years old participating, with 14-year-olds and 15-year-old kids. I believe that we had such an awesome platform, and I'm really thankful that I got to grow up in that era of those times, because I think it was the fairest, most, I didn't even have words, but it's like you got to race the kids that were your age or similar. Maybe they were a year older, but not, you start crossing over into that older age group, like you're a pro, you're going pro racing. And if you mess it up, hey, go get a real job at 18 years old, and there's still so much living, ahead of you. So all in all, it all paved and it all set the path of where I ended up. I mean, all that's well documented. But I think the track, like, even as I'm thinking out loud, and for me, racing lakes and Cessnock and going down to Sydney and Picton, and just tracks that I don't even know if they exist still today, but it was just so fun. Going out to the mountains at Lisco, the track I'll never forget. It just was one of my favorites. We always got to go camping there. Dad always blew us up and put us on. But, and I think I didn't realize, it was normal, but we raced so much of our racing during the winter. And, here living in America, everything's completely opposite and race in the summer. And so how much harder it was for camping. You always needed a fire, and it was cold, and, going to Bathurst in the winter was brutal, and just memories. And I think that's what brings the closeness, and sleeping in a tent and having your sisters, your brothers, your mom and dad, everybody in there, and it being uncomfortable. But those are the memories you carry on,
Yeah, definitely. Look, just wrapping this bit up a bit, is there anyone that you'd like to, especially mention or say hello to that might be in the room tonight? Obviously, this is your induction, but into the Hall of Fame for Motorcycle New South Wales. But yeah, is there anyone else that maybe help push the path for you?
I would be, it'd be so terrible because you're putting me on the spot.
Oh, no, sorry.
Really like to, I'd cross, I think that for me, it's really special that my mom is receiving this award in my honor tonight. My mom is, your mom's your mom, she was so supportive and so awesome through all my years. My dad passed a couple of years ago, and he was a tough old bugger, he's always the hardest person for me to talk about. We butted heads so much. But I think I got my, how would I say it? I think I got my work ethic from my dad. He worked hard. Geez, I remember, and I mentioned it in my Hall of Fame AMA speech, but it was like, he'd come home with just nasty concreting hands. And I don't know why that always stuck with me as a young kid, but I always said, man, you know what? And you're naive at the time. I'm never going to have a job. I'm just going to race bikes. That's my goal in life. I want to just race bikes and never have to work. And I'm 43, and I don't know that I'll ever have to work again. So it's worked out okay. There's a lot of passion projects that I have. Bikes treated me well, and my mom and dad just gave me such a great platform. It's always easy to speak of the hard times. When I left Australia, obviously it didn't go great. and I forever will be left, a lot of things unsaid. And I just am so appreciative of the platform and the things that they gave me as a kid. So, yeah, but my mom has a great night, all people and some friends, and motorcycles. Not of my life, but our fan. Did I lose you?
Yeah, we just lost you there at the end there. Sorry about that, Chad. The signal hasn't been great through part of this, but yeah, we've got the message there at all. So look, we'll cap it there. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the Motorcycle New South Wales Hall of Fame. Your career was amazing. I'm privileged to have watched a lot of it, and I'm sure everyone in the room has as well. But yeah, thanks for your time. Appreciate it, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you. And like I said, I know if I cut out or not, but I just thankful for my mom for receiving this, and I hope that she runs into some old friends and people, and she has a great night.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.